David Joshua Rubin has always excelled at movie references.
Remember the pink slime from Ghostbusters? Right, we're the last Jedi are strewn throughout the galaxy. Dark Knight Rises, is that what it was? Dark Knight Rises, yeah.
He just loves using these allusions to make his audience understand the most basic concepts, and they'll retell them at parties or in the YouTube comments to make everyone like, wow, I never thought of it that way, bruh. The biggest victim of this process is poor George Orwell, whose most influential novel has been pissed upon by Rubin and his co-dimwit Michael Knowles in PragerU's book club episode.
You could literally pick any quote from the book and it is applicable now. It feels like literally everything we're going through right now. Feels like now, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
A thorough analysis of the attempt to frame 1984 as anti-left can be found on Big Joel's channel. I'm going in a slightly different direction. Even though dunking on Dave Rubin is the most popular sport of the Internet Olympics nowadays, I will not participate, for the most part. This video is labeled a case study, because Dave's perception of 1984 is illustrative of a broader problem in society. His book club performance will function as a gateway to analyze how people misconstrue the concept of censorship and tend to draw nonsensical revisionist comparisons to foster a political agenda. To put everything into context, it needs to be mentioned that Orwell himself was highly critical of authoritarian regimes. In no way did the author advocate against socialism itself, he just imagined it to prosper within a democratic framework. Every line of serious work that I have written since 1936 has been written, directly or indirectly, against totalitarianism and for democratic socialism, as I understand it. So, 1984 functions as a critique both on right and left-wing authoritarianism. Obviously, a totalitarian regime needs to suppress speech in order to prevent the opposition from voicing criticism. The fact that dictatorships want to maintain their power is misinterpreted entirely by Dave, who feels that a societal backlash against insensitive speech equals censorship.
I don't know if I'm allowed.
Will certainly be censored by the Ministry of Truth on the internet.
Somebody's not going to be happy about this.
And this is the smoking gun. This is what each and every debate of cancel culture boils down to. The fundamental misconception of censorship. If you say or do something someone else doesn't like, him berating you is no restriction of free speech. In fact, it's quite the opposite. If you say or do something someone else doesn't like, and that someone else happens to be a superior, or let's say a service, whose terms and conditions you've agreed to, removing you from their area of responsibility is no restriction of free speech. You just have to voice your opinion somewhere else. US law does not give a damn.
When you call a he, when you call him, her,
you do that because you're a nice person, right? And you respect other human beings. I'm aware this is basically common sense 101. But the often deliberate misunderstanding is something we Germans also have to deal with. Except that here you can actually be indicted for verbal abuse. Whenever I show my students it's legally okay to publicly say stuff like,
a really black-looking person, don't you see the connection? I'll take you to the zoo and show you. Not to be cruel.
Most of them feel quite happy with mandated speech in Germany. Whatever your stance on that might be, it's clear that neither Dave nor any other free speech warrior is about to get censored. This video wasn't taken down. PragerU has kept their sponsors and they keep filming, spreading their high-level important ideas all over the internet. It's certainly ironic Dave considers himself part of
few of us that have a little bit of the spark of Winston.
Since his willingness to prostitute himself for Dennis Prager is widely known.
Because you're of great use.
Well, don't worry, I'm not doing it for your use of me. I'm doing it for myself.
No.
Now that's what a true resistance warrior looks like, right? But the self-discrediting does not end here. They also fail to contextualize Orwellian terms, such as doublethink, which is defined as to know and not to know, to be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies, to hold simultaneously two opinions which cancelled out, knowing them to be contradictory and believing both of them, to use logic against logic.
You call everybody a Nazi? Congratulations, now nobody's a Nazi.
Ironically, during the attempt to put the US on the same level as Oceania, Dave constantly double thinks and sadly lets us participate in this progress.
They want to make sure that people aren't offended. Now, you do that too long, and what are you left with? You're left with just nothing. You're left with an inability to do anything. We're not burning books yet, although NPR did put out that thing about how you have to decolonize your bookshelf, which in essence is a modern book burning.
Burn the books.
The anti-racists. Who are the racists?
Right.
This shtick is of course reflective of a broader issue. If everything is comparable to everything, Nothing and everything will be reprehensible and offensive, since other things would be equally reprehensible and offensive. What a sentence. Let's clarify. Slavery, Jim Crow laws, and the N-word are not the same as protests against police brutality, affirmative action, and, well, not wanting to be called the N-word. In Germany, those absurd comparisons are currently drawn by the Querdenken movement, a poor man's QAnon whose sympathizers are heavily critical of how the government handles COVID-19, a virus many of them do not even believe in, by referring to, you've guessed correctly, National Socialism. In their opinion, getting vaccinated mirrors the yellow star badge that Nazis forced Jews to wear. The government is basically Adolf Hitler, their medical advisors are like Mengele, Germany is a dictatorship, and those who speak up are as brave as famous resistance fighters. The ultimate goal of these comparisons, be it in Germany or in the US, is to evoke a reactionary response amongst those who share a certain political agenda by calling a dark apocalyptic future vision into existence. In many cases, this future vision mirrors certain horrors from the past. And this, in turn, leads to a skewed perspective and a complete detachment from reality. As if standing up for Black Lives Matter will somehow marginalize white people in a way that is comparable to the United States before the Civil Rights Act. As if passing a bill against hate speech will somehow lead to a communist dictatorship, akin to China under Mao. As if incentivizing the public to get vaccinations will somehow lead to the murder of dissidents, like in Hitler's Third Reich. As if paying attention to not offend minorities will somehow lead to a dystopian nightmare.
1984?